Hello everybody. In the last video we have seen the HSQL database. It is an embedded database which can also be executed in a client server mode. Similarly, today we will be seeing the H2 database and the Derby database. Both these databases are also embedded databases and they are also based on Java. They are developed in Java and both of them can be executed again in the embedded mode or in the client server mode. Embedded mode in the sense that it executes in the JVM in which the client program is launched. Over here we are launching the client program in the form of a Java program which is executed from the Eclipse GUI. So basically it launches the Java JVM and within that JVM the H2 uh, server launches or the Derby database embedded server can launch. So let us see the H2 database, how we can um, use it in the form of an embedded server or in the client server mode. For that, we'll have to modify the pom.xml. I've added these dependencies for H2. I've also added the Derby database dependencies. These are the two dependencies needed for Derby database. The Derby client database, the Derby client dependency uh, is needed for executing the Derby database in a client server mode. So after adding the H2 dependency, these Maven dependencies get updated to have H2 dependencies in the class path, and these are the Derby dependencies. So now the next thing we have to do is that if we are first seeing the embedded mode, let us see the configuration file. Very similar to the configuration file of HSQL, we have the dialect, driver class, connection URL, where these are the H2 dialect, H2 driver and the H2 connection URL. Again over here, mem specifies, signifies that this connection URL is connecting to the database launched in memory mode or the embedded mode, and this is the name of the database that will be created within the JVM which is launching our application, which is launching our Java program. These are the connection username, password, show SQL, HBM to DDL and the entity as we have seen in the case of HSQL database. So now we have the dbutil where we have added our dbutil where we have added the configuration file strings for H2 database and Derby database. H2 database again can be started in embedded mode, so it has an embedded configuration file which we have right now seen. It can be started in the server mode. For that, this is the configuration file. Similarly, Derby database has embedded mode configuration file and client server mode configuration file. So right now we will be seeing the H2 embedded configuration file, and this is the testdb program where we are creating a student and displaying all the students. In create student, we are populating the student entity with some values and we are saving it to the database. So these are the Hibernate framework API that are used to uh, persist the entity into the backend database connected via the configuration files we have over here. So this is the same code that we have seen and executed for the HSQL database. In this case only we are modifying the dbutil to point to the configuration file that we need to use for creating the connection. So this is how we will be connecting the H2 database in embedded mode. So now let's test it by running testdb. This is how the H2 database is getting initialized, launched and initialized. And here a student entity is getting created. Now since this is an embedded database, only one entity will get created because we have created only one entity. Now on the second execution of this same program, we will still be having only one entity being created and displayed because every time the JVM relaunches, the database gets destroyed and recreated on the fresh launch of the JVM. So this was about H2 database embedded mode. For the client server mode, we have to change the configuration file to have this particular connection string where we have the database separately launch outside of the JVM that we are executing our client program, and the communication via our Java JVM to the H2 runtime is going to occur over the TCP protocol. And this is the connection URL that follows, where localhost is our host, 1992 is the port, and MyDB is the name of the database that we are going to create and use it for our uh, present application. So this was the configuration file. We'll again change the configuration file over here. We will copy the H2 server config and we will put it as input for our Hibernate configuration and then re-execute the testdb. Now testdb again, it is creating a student and displaying all students. Yeah, we need to restart the server. Basically, we need to start the server. This will be our now what we will have to do is this is the method in which we are going to start the H2 server. First, we are going to use the Java command, the Java tool available in the bin directory, Java executable, and pass the parameter to it org.h2.tools.server where the main method is located, and we will pass the parameter -tcp indicating that we are only going to connect over the TCP protocol. There are numerous other ways in which the server can be connected to. Presently we are using only TCP, and hyphen if not exists. So the database will get created if it is not existent. So in case of Derby also we need to specifically mention to the database to create we need to specifically mention to the server to create our database. So now we will start our database and we see the message TCP server running at port 1992. That's what we are trying to connect to. So now we will proceed to execute again our TC test DB. I have executed it multiple times before, so that's why we see already these many students are getting created. Let's go to the last and we see that the last ID created is 5 over here. So let's rerun the program. Now what we see over here is ID 6. So we see that we have the previous students all getting created uh, and retained and displayed in the next execution. So what this is happening is that we have this database getting executed in the form of client server mode. So this is the about H2 database. This is a link for the H2 database user guide, which you can see. We'll open it over here. So basically all of these databases, they have a very small footprint, around 2 MB or 1.5 MB. But if we go for, see over here, we have this listed over here, footprint of each of these databases. We have seen HSQL, it is 1.5 MB, H2 is 2 MB, Derby is 3 MB. And if we go for installation of our regular database like SQL Server or Oracle DB. So in case of SQL Server, the typical installation, it starts from 1.5 GB, around 1.5 GB. So that's the difference between the in-memory databases and our regular databases that we use. So this was about the uh, user guide of H2 database. Now we move ahead and we see the Derby database. We can shut down the server H2. Okay, so for the Derby database, we have this user guide. There's a server that we can separately install. So this is the link for it. This is the bin.zip that we need to install from Derby site, Apache Derby site. And after installation of this bin, we have to traverse to the bin and we have to hit start network server.bat to start it in a client server mode. Now let us begin our uh, Derby database in embedded config. Again, the remaining parameters are the same. So this is the configuration file for Derby embedded configuration. So let's open the file, and this is the dialect. This is the driver class, and this is the connection string for in-memory implementation of Derby database. We have JDBC, Derby, memory. MyDB is the name of the database that I wish to create, and create is equal to true. So this is the flag that we need to set to indicate that if the database is not present, it needs to be created. In case of the client server mode, we have the driver as the client driver, and the database, the connection string gets replaced to this format. The port that it listens to, Derby database listens to, is 1527. So this is about the Derby database. If we have to now start testing, we have already replaced this in the embedded config, and we have to run this test dp file. So again, since we are creating only one student gets created and displayed. Now if we were to use this in client server format, we have Derby server config, and then we have to start the Derby server by using the command This is the H2 server. Yes, this is the Derby server, and we have to hit the start network server.bat. We have to execute this. So here we get the message started and ready to accept connection on port 1527. That's the port that we have mentioned. So now we are ready to start launch into the client server mode. We'll run as Java application. Yeah, so it already had been executed before. So we have this student ID. Okay, let's relaunch it. We have basically 3 students getting created. The ID part we will see. Okay, now 4th student is getting created. That's how the students are getting created and displayed and retained basically. So that was about the Derby database, and we have seen that's how we have seen the HSQL database, H2 database, and Derby database. All these databases are Java-based databases, and they can be launched in client-server mode or embedded mode. So when we launch in the client-server mode, we have a very lightweight server executing in a JVM outside of our Java client program JVM, and it provides almost all of the functionality that ANSI SQL has to offer. So we will end our video over here. We'll see more of the Java and database thing in the upcoming videos. Thank you.